Okay, thank you so much. We have got more than now, there are more than 800 people who've shown interest. We've got more than now 300 plus people joining. So we'll get started. So I just want to get started with the code first and then move on to show you the presentation second. Okay, there are two things I want to show you. First, I want to start with something Selenium, right? So I didn't write any code at the moment. I have created a class and you go to the pom.xml where I put the Selenium older version right here, 4.5.0. Okay, so I'll show you both the versions, what is different. Okay, how many of you, all of you know Maven basic dependency? Type yes if you all know. Yes, I know Maven. Is that clear? So yes, I know Maven. So which means most of you know. So I'm not going to spend time on this. So I'll start with 4.5.0 and 4.6.0 and then go with all the details. So first thing first. So when we are going to the 4.5.0, so we generally start writing this code, right? Launching the browser comes from the ChromeDriver. By the way, what is a ChromeDriver? ChromeDriver is a class, right? It is an implemented class. I create an object for the ChromeDriver equal to new ChromeDriver. This is what we do, correct? We all know this code for sure because we would have written it several times in our entire career path. So once we imported this one and try running this code, we would generally get an exception. The exception will come and say that you have not set your Chrome driver. This is what it will come, right? Generally, you would have noticed this. The path to the driver executable is not set by the attribute WebDriver.Chrome.driver. Did you all have noticed this? What is the solution you all use? You would have used multiple solutions. What is the one solution you all use to manage this? Use predominantly in today's world, we all use WebDriver Manager, correct? It's a very common implementation. You do that. We'll talk about that and how does Selenium Manager different and what is the closest association between them. We'll talk about it. But what's going to happen is when I go to Selenium 4.6.0 instead of 5.0, I change this to 4.6.0. And if I go and say the same code and this likely go and run this code, this is going to help me don't need the driver to be managed as part of the code. Now this is going to launch the browser. Okay, this is going to really help me to launch the browser. You see here, the Chrome driver is absolutely available, browser is launched. Is that a good option for you? Now you don't have to manage. Is that a good option for you to have it in 4.6.0? The code, you don't have to manage the driver. So you can ask me, Babu, how and why, what, all the questions. I'm going to discuss in detail about it. So I told you what is the learning for people who just joined 4.6.0. We don't have to manage the driver. I don't have to write any code to manage the driver. Okay, let's take a moment to go back and understand the architecture. How many of you wanted to know the Selenium architecture? I know you would have visited before. It is a good idea to revisit. How many of you wanted to revisit Selenium WebDriver one more time to get a clear understanding how it works? Okay, okay, brilliant. Type revisit. If you want to revisit, revisit. Good, very good. Lot of response. Okay, so let's go to the PPT. Understand the WebDriver. I made it simpler by looking at the PPT. So take a look at this. So first thing, what language do you all write your Selenium code? What language do you all use to write the Selenium code? Most of you, because most of the learners at TestLeaf do it in Java. In your office, you might have to write in different language as well. So we call that as a language binding, correct? You can write in other languages also, maybe C#, JavaScript, Python or Ruby, right? There are people who write in different languages. Okay, these are all language bindings. Okay, what is the syntax you all write if you want to load a URL on a browser, load a URL on a browser? What is the syntax you all write? You write in Java using what syntax? You write something called driver.get. So you write in Java, it's a very similar across the languages. So you will be writing driver.get where you pass the URL. Is that the code, everybody? Do you all get this code? Okay, this you write into Java. Now, when you write this code, what happens internally? Because this is a method getting called, get method is getting called in the remote WebDriver class, and which internally going to call an API, right? There is an API which is built in as part of the Selenium Java library, and that's going to call in Selenium 3 version using JSON Wire Protocol. There is a REST API call which is being called. So when you do a get, so there is a call, post call goes and does it. A post call is sent, with the URL and the responses state. So you are going to get this particular call, which is going to convert into a REST API call internally by the Java language binding, which goes as a HTTP API call as a JSON Wire Protocol in the version number 3. But what do you all know what version when it becomes 4 and there is a change? Even the last edition of 3 itself, it came as a implementation. So from JSON Wire Protocol, it changed as what? Exactly. It becomes a W3C. W3C is again RESTful call, right? But the standards are managed by W3C. W3C is standards. So where there is, this is how it should be written if you want to follow a Selenium WebDriver API call. That's all it is. Again, it is going to be get, post, and delete. Only 3 of them they have: get, post, and delete is the API call. So again, to repeat, you have a language binding in Java where you call driver.get, which internally goes in the REST API call. Now, where does the REST API call goes and hits? That's an interesting point. The REST API call goes and hits your browser driver. If you want to use Chrome browser, it goes and hits a Chrome browser driver, which is managed by Google. So Google manages this Chrome driver. We'll talk about this in detail. There's a Chrome driver which comes and sits in your machine, which is a binary, which when you run the binary, it is not a Chromium engine. Please understand. Chromium engine is a little different. It's a Chrome driver is a binary, which is built on a Python. This Python-based language library, which comes as an executable in your machine based on your platform and based on your browser version. This is built, available, which get downloaded and deployed in your machine, where you set the path of this also. We'll talk about all that in detail as we progress. Okay, there we go. So now once we do this, now the browser driver is going to go and do an internal. Now like Chrome driver, we also have, see, this is for Chrome browser, Chrome driver. Similarly, we have an Edge driver, we have a Gecko driver for Mozilla, we have a Safari driver. All these are different drivers. Don't look at the color codes of these and this, doesn't make sense. But this for Java alone, you can use any of the driver. This is all browser oriented. Okay. Now, when you hit the Chrome driver call, the Chrome driver is going to make a call to the browser. This would be in terms of a CDP call, or it could be a JavaScript call. This will be a call internally between the Chrome driver and Chrome browser. So far, so good. Everybody understood it. You wrote in Java, which becomes an API call. Using a W3C, it goes and hit a Chrome driver binary, which is running on your machine, and which goes and hits the browser on your machine as an API call. So when I do driver.get, the call goes as an API, and the API calls goes into the browser as a JavaScript conversation, and the browser is getting loaded with the execution of loading the URL what it gave. When the URL is successfully loaded, the response is sent back to the Chrome driver saying that yeah, it's loaded, but you don't get any status code because the status codes are not managed. The response comes back to the REST API saying that yeah, we got the response back. There is a response, JSON comes back. These are all JSON conversation, not XML. JSON conversation comes back, and finally the JSON conversation is parsed and the response is got, and Java code understands this, and the next line of code is going to be driver.findElement goes on. So is that clear for all of you? So there is a Java language which hits W3C, goes to the Chrome driver, go to the browser, and the browser response comes back to Chrome driver. Chrome driver sends an API response. API response is parsed, and it goes back to the Java as a synchronous. If it is a JavaScript, it becomes asynchronous call, but still the promises are managed. Okay, this is how the architecture of Selenium WebDriver. Now the challenge here is, I write the code. For Selenium to work, I need to have 2 pieces of information. Other than the Selenium jar file I have, the jar file which I manage using the Maven, I also need 2 things. One is a browser. I have to install the Chrome browser myself. One. I have to also install the Chrome driver myself. This is right now managed by WebDriver Manager, but predominantly it is a browser or the Chrome driver. This is how it is working. Is that clear? So 3 things that we all, so remember 3 things that you have to have, make your Selenium code to 1. One is a Selenium Java jar. Number 2, you should have your Chrome driver. And number 3, you have to have a Chrome browser. Is that clear? Everybody type in the 3 things that you will have as part of your implementation of Selenium code to work. Number 1, Selenium Java jar. Number 2, Chrome driver binary file. Number 3, it is going to be the Chrome browser. Everybody type in very quickly. I'll give you 3 seconds to type in. So we will move on to the next learning. Brilliant. Selenium Java jar file, Chrome driver binary, and then finally it goes to the browser. So if you want to run similarly on a Firefox, you should have a Firefox browser, then you should have a Gecko driver, then you should also have the Java job. Brilliant, very good. A lot of people typed in, amazing, appreciated. Now let's look at now browser alone, because this is the painful point. Browser, anyway, we all know how most of us have Chrome browser always in our machine, so no problem. But unfortunately, we don't manage the Chrome driver. Now, is your browser version, will it get automatically updated every time you launch the browser? Do you see that every new version of Chrome browser you get on your machine, will it get updated, auto-updated? By default, we all leave it updated, correct? Auto-update. So every time you launch it, it will get auto-updated, correct? So every 4 weeks to 6 weeks, you get a new Chrome version. What is the latest Chrome version we are all living as of today? What is the latest version we are looking at? 107. We also got a 108 early edition, right? So every 4 weeks, we are talking about a new version of browser. So if the browser is changing, the Chrome driver is also supposed to change. That is a pain. Appa browser enna version same version the Chrome driver irukku. Illana the code will not run. So now you all understood there is a dependency. The browser and the driver should match with the same version. But Java jar doesn't have to change. I can use even 3 versions of Java. I can use even 4 versions of Java. Doesn't matter. But the painful point is I need to manage the driver and browser. How many of you was working in Selenium for a long time, had this pain of managing the driver? Type me if you had the pain. Like me, I was working more than a decade right now. So managing the driver is a painful point, and I use one version, my customer uses another version, my colleague uses another version, and my framework developer uses another version. So these are all painful period of managing it. I do remember a conversation which I had with the Selenium team long back. This is not how others are. These are called use cases, right? Use cases. Use cases are who is using Selenium at most? Is it developer or tester? Who is using the most implementation of Selenium in real time? Who is using Selenium at most? Tester or developer? Predominantly testers, right? Testers also come with non-coding background, or they are not super good in doing all the dependency management. So use case I happened to discuss long back is why it should be driver should be outside the Selenium. Why it cannot be living inside the Selenium, which can be downloaded, managed. Why it should sit outside. But always the answer comes from the development team of Selenium is, okay, it is the pain because we don't have to manage the dependency. That is something a developer, Selenium developer should manage it. We don't want to manage them. That was the painful. Now, thanks to, for that matter, thanks to Boni Garcia, who was the professor at Spanish professor, who built a solution called WebDriver Manager. We'll talk about it shortly. But otherwise, if you have to manage your Chrome driver, so you need to know, let me go to my Chrome driver. If you have to download your Chrome driver, I think you all have to go here. And based on the browser version, whatever browser you have to click on the browser version, what you have. Then you need to find, are you running on a Linux, on a Ubuntu machine, or a Red Hat, or you are in a Mac machine, or you have a Mac with a different Intel, or it's some Apple itself with a chip. So it depends on the chip, you need to download a different version. If you're in a Windows machine, you need to download this, right? Again, you need to download this, extract this, put it into the right folder, right? How many of you did this for a long time, managing this driver and putting into a path and all? How many of you did this in your past, right? So those are all, even I do remember I was training Selenium from 2014, 15 onwards. A lot of people painfully come, the browser update I changed. The older batches, 2016, 17, people come and tell me, hey, how do I manage this? There is a compatibility issue. Still we get the code. How many of you in 2015, 16 batches from us, learning from us, used to get this question on your WhatsApp group still, right? Right. Still we see these common questions keep hitting us, right? So one of the good solution instead of we managing this is going to be WebDriver Manager. I'll talk about all that very quickly. But I also, from the interview perspective, you have to understand there are 4 ways to manage your browser driver. 4 different ways you can manage your browser driver today. Number 1, the oldest traditional style, you manage yourself, where you go to the repository like Chrome, you find out the browser version in your machine, and you download that particular browser version. Even if you're using a older version of browser, you can go to the older version of browser, download the older version of it. You can go click here. It will give you all the different versions of it. You can go to 105 or 104, whatever version you're using, download that. based on your platform, download that and use it. That's one way to do it, right? The second approach is basically you download it, keep it in your project folder. For example, I have already downloaded it and kept it on my desktop. I have in my desktop, there is a Chrome driver. I'm in a Mac machine, so I kept it in the Mac machine. So what I can do is, if I'm using Selenium older version 4.5.0, let's say, and save this, what I have to do, you all know this code, right? We have to write System.setProperty, right? This is not a Selenium Java code. It's a pure Java code where I'm setting the path, WebDriver.Chrome.driver. You all know this, right? So where we have to set the path of it, right? So you all know that, right? So I don't have to teach you this. So I have to go and put this code and put it right here, ChromeDriver, the binary. So as I'm in a Mac machine, you don't need an exe. It is a binary here, right? So I can put this browser driver, but this should be the exact version of 107. I'm running this right now. So as you see, this is going to be 107. My browser is also 107. So what I can do, I can go and stop this and go and run this code. So take a look. Now this will work because this is the oldest traditional way. I download the browser driver, hold it with me. This can launch 107, exactly the driver version what I have. Now browser will get launched. Okay. So I believe you all understood this old traditional way of doing it. The only biggest pain of doing this is whenever my browser version changes, or if I have to run in a Windows machine or a Linux machine or a different OS, then I need to accordingly download the correct driver and put it right here. Are you all with me? Everybody with me to do that? Yeah, so that is the old traditional style of doing it. So we used to do another way approach to do this also. The second approach is you don't download them and keep it on your local machine. You keep them in a common folder or a common drive where you can set it in the environment variable. You can put it into the environment variable where you can put in a class path. So once you put in the class path, for example, if I have a class path set already, I copy this and automatically I don't have to do this. I can come and copy this into my project folder. My project folder is already added. So paste this. So it is added. So I don't have to set this path because my project path is already set. I go and run this automatically. It is set in the environment variable as a path. Maybe it is not set right now. So you or it may not have the permissions. So let's see if it has a permission to run it. So maybe it doesn't have a permission to run. So let's apply this and try running. So if the permission path is set, then it will automatically run. So I don't have to even System.setProperty is not needed because I added the project folder in my Maven to automatically take this path, right? This, you don't need to write the code now. System.setProperty is not needed. But this is a second approach. But still the problem with this approach, but the class path is set here, so automatically class path will be available. But the problem with this approach here is, this is again the version you need to manage. You have to painfully manage this version. So this is not a good idea. Okay. Now let's go to the third version of it, where we have something called WebDriver Manager. Right. In the recent learning for the last 3 years, we have been teaching everybody with the WebDriver Manager of it, where we can put the WebDriver Manager version of it. I think many of you know it, so I don't have to really code this. So you have to add the WebDriver Manager dependency based on your Maven repository and put it. But here comes the interesting, the fourth way, which I'm going to teach you. So before we can go with it, is that clear so far? Are we all in sync so far? Right. The fourth way is the way Selenium managing it by itself. So we don't have to manage it, where Selenium managing it by itself. So that is the way I'm going to teach you, where I'm going to take you through the code. I'm going to take you through the code. So some of you may find it a little difficult to understand, but you just follow me. I'm going to iterate it twice. First time I'm going to do with 4.5.0. The second time I'm going to do it with the 4.6.0. So both time I'm going to compare the code and show you what code changes have happened. So let's go put a breakpoint on the Chrome driver. So the Chrome driver is going to be my breakpoint. So when I call the Chrome driver launch, this is your constructor. When I call open declaration, when I look at the original source code of the Chrome driver, it is internally calling a constructor, right? When you say this is going to call automatically a constructor, overloading constructor, a chained constructor using this keyword. which internally calling with an argument ChromeDriverService dot createDefaultService. This is getting createDefaultService is called. Let me go inside the createDefaultService, which is calling a builder. It is trying to build the path. So inside the builder, let's go and see what is inside the build. The build is doing 4 items. Everybody can write down. There is a 4 things builder does. Number 1, it tries to find every time you run your Selenium code will launch your browser driver in a particular version. How many of you noticed every time you run your Selenium code, it will be launching in a different port number? Have you all noticed this? Have you all noticed this? If you noticed, type yes, noticed. So no, 4444 is for Selenium grid. It is not for the browser driver, right? Let me show you. Those who have not seen it, take a look at it. So I'm going to run it for the first time. When I'm running for the first time, I'm also going to show you from the code base. Now this launched the ChromeDriver 107. The ChromeDriver is getting launched in a port number 60295. 60295. This is the port in which it is running. So I'm going to launch in another browser. Let's go and launch in another time, one more time. Now this time it will launch the ChromeDriver in a different port because every execution it wanted to run on a different port. Is that super clear? Now it launched in a different port. Is that clear, everybody? So every time you intend to see it to run on a different browser driver port number. So ChromeDriver is getting called in a different version. That is the reason your browser drivers, even if you close the browsers, it is going to be sitting on the machine with a different ChromeDriver. How many of you seen, if you go to your task manager, you will see ChromeDriver running even after your executions are done? How many of you noticed this? Right? That is because you are running in different portals. Let's go and see how the code is written. So if you have to look at the code, how it is written, I'm going to go to the build. Where the logic is going to be, it is going to find the free port. How does it find the free port? It is going to do a simple loop. 5 times it's going to loop. Take a look at it. For int I equal to 0, I less than. So 5 times it's going to go to the port. It create a port number. Check if the port is free in your machine. If the port is not, if it is port is free, it returns the port. If it is port is not free, then it iterates and checks it. If none of the random port that is created by this particular call, if nothing is available, so you see here, there's a random call, synchronized random call. So it creates a random port number. If the port number is not available after 5 times, it throws an exception. You hardly find this exception because your machine will have randomized port. So 5 times it runs and checks the port number. And if none of the port is available for ChromeDriver to launch, it will fail. But most of the time at the first execution itself, you get the random port, which will be free and it uses the port. Is that clear? Purinjida, everybody understood this portion? So every time it runs, it creates a new port number. How many of you understood this? Brilliant. Is that a good amount of information? So that is a reason. But I think if you understood the ChromeDriver option, in my projects, when we are trying to scale up, we use the same ChromeDriver port number. So that is a way to do it, where you can do the ChromeDriver option, you can set the port. If your only challenge is, if you kill the ChromeDriver, you'll get the exception, right? This is a runtime exception, Java runtime exception called unable to find a free port. You most likely you will not see this problem at all, because within 5 iterations, you will likely to have it. Okay, this is the first thing it does. Let's see what is the second thing it does. Second thing it does is it goes and finds the default executable. What is the default executable? Your ChromeDriver binary file. ChromeDriver binary, not the Chrome browser. ChromeDriver binary file. Now let me go and show you where is the Chrome find default executable. Let me go F3 this. It is an abstract method. When you see an abstract method, this should be implemented by which class? Abstract methods are implemented by which class? The abstract methods are implemented by the subclasses, isn't it? Subclasses, the subclasses which implements the logic, correct? So let's go and see the subclasses. How do I see the subclass? I can go right click and see go to that particular one, go and see the quick type hierarchy. You go and see the quick type hierarchy. So when you go to the quick type hierarchy, you see all these ones, which is ChromeDriver, Edge driver, Gecko driver, Internet Explorer, Safari, driver service. So I have to go to the ChromeDriver service. Is that clear? I have to go inside the ChromeDriver service. go inside the ChromeDriver service. There is a call here. This is an implemented method called findExecutable, which internally calling another method called findExecutable. There's a method, another method is calling findExecutable, where it is telling where is the ChromeDriver, right? This is the exe property. Let's go and see what is the exe property. WebDriver dot Chrome dot driver. This is hard code. பாருங்க, இதுதான் உங்களோட property. If a ChromeDriver is not available, do you get this particular path? Yeah, do you all get this property? Do you all see this property? Yes or no? In your error message, you get this one, WebDriver.ChromeDriver, it is not set. Do you get this? This is coming from this particular one. Let's go back to the same method, what we saw. Find, right, default executable. Find default executable goes and downloads the driver. It checks the driver should be coming from this path. This is exactly what we spoke, right? We spoke to this, right? ChromeDriver.chromium.org. Here is where the downloads are available, correct? Here is where it is trying to download here. This is what exactly trying to download here. So this is exactly what is getting downloaded, and we got the downloader right here, right? Chromium. All right, this is where the download is coming. Now this is internally calling another method. Let's go inside this method. Let's go inside this method called findExecutable. Here is where the code changes in 4.6.0. 4.6.0 inga dhaan code change nadandirukku. So adanala keep your focus. So when the code is not, when the driver is not available, we all used to get this error message, right? The path to the driver executable must be set. Correct? Did we get this error message? Yes or no? Everybody, did we get this? Here is where the error is coming from. So this is actually reading the property. If the property is already available, then if the property is not available, it will throw the exception, right? If the property is available, it goes and check if the property is executable or not. I'm going to show you both of this. It's a good scenario. I'm going to run in debug mode for you to understand this. Okay, let's go run this code again one more time. So far. So let's go to the debug mode one by one, so which will get us to understand what exactly working. Let me put a breakpoint here, and here. Let's go. So let's understand this one more time. Internally, how it works. So ChromeDriver constructor is going to be called, which internally call the, right, the super or maybe the chaining interface, which is going to call the createDefaultService. The createDefaultService is going to take us to the build. Build is going to take us all the way to this particular port number. So let's go and see here the code will come here. Currently, the port number is not set. So it has to find the free port. So before that, let's make a call here. So if you see the port number is set as 60215. This is a available port to run this. Now it is going to go to the default executable where it is going to find it. So the implementation we saw already, it is going to be coming here. So let's go. It is coming here. Now this guy finds the Chrome and goes and calls this. So I'm going to come here. The code is going to, if I do F8, it's going to come. The default path, let's see the default path. ChromeDriver is the one it has to find right now. So let's see if the executive path is available or not. It is available in my machine. That's why there is no error which is called, because it is already available in the path. So executed path, the ChromeDriver is available sitting on my project folder, directly on the project folder. Now it is going to create a file out of this exe and try to check if it is an executable. So it is going to go and check if this particular binary, whatever ChromeDriver in my machine, is executable or not. It's going to check this, if it can able to execute that binary or not. So if it is, now the code comes here and try to check if the condition is executable or not. Okay. So this time it is executable. So it is going to go and launch the browser. This is exactly what's happening. Now, just to show you an example, I'm going to go back to my ChromeDriver, right click, go to the properties. I'm going to say, no, it is not allowed to execute. I'm not going to allow it to execute. So which means I don't give the change mode is not 777, right? So which doesn't have an execution property. Let's go run this in debug mode again. So let's go, it goes to the constructor. It goes and finds a new default port number, and then it goes and finds the default, then goes all the way to this. Now this is going to throw an exception saying that, oh, this is not executable, right? The path to the driver executable is not actually there. Okay, is that clear? Is that understandable? right? We got an exception to this. Is that clear? Are we all clear? But yeah, so which means the driver need to be executable. Right, let me go and delete this one right now. Delete this one, which will not have the browser driver right now, it will fail. What WebDriver Manager will do is WebDriver Manager will download and set the path. Hence, when you are checking on the environment variable, it will be available. Okay. So are we good so far? Are we good so far? So I'm going to add a WebDriver Manager to show you third, and finally Selenium Manager. So I'm going to do a WebDriver Manager. So for which what I need to do, I need to go and get a WebDriver Manager. So let's see how many of you interested to know how does the WebDriver Manager set the path. WebDriver Manager Maven dependency. How many of you interested to know how your WebDriver Manager sets the path? Okay. I did a session deep diving on WebDriver Manager long back, but anyways, those who did not follow me then, you can just quickly take a note of it. So now if you look at it, I added the WebDriver Manager 5.3.1. Save this. So I'm going to write the code. How do I write the code? WebDriver Manager, right? I'm sure many of you know this code. .ChromeDriver.set. So this is going to set up the browser version for me automatically based on my platform. Platform is a OS which comma browser and browser version. It try understanding if it is a Windows machine based on the architecture also. It try to find out and get all the information and does it. Okay, so it will download and give it to me these information. So now let's go and run the same in the debug mode. I think you will all understand how it works right now. Let's go and run in the debug mode right now. So let's go, same code base, ChromeDriver service, port number, executable. The only thing is WebDriver Manager now would have downloaded the ChromeDriver for me from the internet. If it doesn't exist, would have put it in my path. Now, if you go and see the executable path, you wouldn't have got an exception right now. Let's see. This is actually putting into my users, Babu, Cache, Selenium, ChromeDriver, Mac 64 version of my browser, ChromeDriver. Did you see this? Did you see this? It automatically downloaded based on my OS, based on a browser version. It downloaded on a particular path. Do you all able to understand this? Yes. Now let me go and delete this for a moment, right? Let me go and delete this for a moment, right? From this particular path. I'm going to go to this path. I'm going to delete this side. So let me go, move to the bin. The code will fail right now. Okay, code will fail. Because it is an executable is not there, it is going to fail exception saying that ex is not there. Driver executable must exist. There is an exception. Let's go and run this code right now again. Now, do you all know that in this particular path, whatever we saw, let's go to the path. Let's go to the path. In this path, the code is not there. Are you all able to understand this? ChromeDriver is not there. ChromeDriver is not there. Correct? It's going to download right now. Take a look at it. WebDriver Manager will automatically download it, right? So in my detail, another webinar, I think I shown entire step walking through the code base, but this is a good idea to know. Now this code would have automatically downloaded it. So let's go and refresh this. Let's go to the stop downloader. Take a look. Go to the folder. Maybe the version is not the right version. So let's take a look at it in a moment. What is the version we got? So let's go executable. And there we go. And you see the path right now. So this is the path that is sitting right now. It got downloaded on the DS store, right? It has added an extra extension because it got deleted. Second time it's going and sitting on this path. So the executable path is right now available automatically. WebDriver Manager used to manage this and run this for you. Okay, is that clear for everybody? That's exactly what it does. Now let's talk about what happened in Selenium 4.6. What happened in Selenium 4.6? How many are, if you are super ready to see how does it work in 4. So I'm going to delete WebDriver Manager because we don't need it. So let's go to the, now we don't need this dependency anymore. Delete it, put 4.6.0. Are we ready for this code difference in the code? Are we all ready to look at the difference of the code, the internals of the code? Type super ready. Super ready. So we don't need the WebDriver Manager again. Super good. Let's go. So same code base, right? You take a look. ChromeDriver service. Again, it's going to call the build. The build is going to go and do 4 things for you. The first one is port number. Second one is the default executable. Again, this is an abstract method, no code change. The abstract method, if you see the implementation, let's go to the ChromeDriver service again. The ChromeDriver service internally called findExecutable. If the findExecutable could not able to find this executable, there is a try catch which is added calling the Selenium. ஓகேவா ஒருவேளை எக்ஸிகியூஷன் பாத்ல the particular ChromeDriver binary இல்லைன்னா then inside the try catch block there is something written called Selenium Manager. Are you all able to see this code change? Yes. So driver இல்லைன்னா உங்க browser அந்த pathல set ஆகலைன்னா then it is going to go and do this. Are we clear so far? Clear so far? Are you all able to follow this? Yes. Now, what is it does internally? Let's go. It's like the same thing, similar code of your WebDriver Manager. Very, very similar code of the WebDriver Manager. It is actually Boni Garcia become a committer and merged the Selenium WebDriver Manager as part of the Selenium Manager. That's exactly what he did, right? So where he goes and checks. By the way, how many of you don't know that you cannot use WebDriver Manager for Safari driver? You cannot use. Safari driver is not supported by WebDriver Manager. Okay, if you don't know, keep that as a no. WebDriver Manager still have to be managed independently by yourself. Okay, if you are not aware of it, only 3 browser versions or 3 browsers are supported: Firefox driver, Gecko driver, Chrome driver, MS Edge driver, which is Edge driver. Only 3 of them are supported by the WebDriver Manager. So if it is not any of these, it will throw an exception saying that unable to locate the driver with this name, whatever driver name. Then what it does is it goes and try to find the binary for you internally based on the browser version or browser that you have in your machine. It try to find out, are you in a Linux, are you in a Windows, are you in a Mac? It try to find your current platform. Okay, based on the platform, it try to understand what is the exact machine OS version and browser version, and based on which it try to understand and get you the driver path. And then it checks whether it is executable or not. If it is not existing, then it will download it for you. It will automatically download it for you. So it will run a command and try to get it for you. Is that clear for everybody? So what here happening is, if Selenium Manager, if it doesn't exist, so it will automatically download the browser based on the browser version, like exactly similar code of a WebDriver Manager, which downloads and put it right here, make the permission, and then you should be doing it. So let me I put a breakpoint right here, and let's go and run this code right now to get an idea. So debug, go, same thing. No code change in any of these ones, right? No code change on any of this one. Now it goes and try to find the path. The path doesn't exist. The execution path is basically null because the property WebDriver.Chrome.driver is not set. It's not there. So it just goes to the Selenium Manager. They try to get the instance and try to find the binary right now. So if you see on the binary for the output, it try to find the binary on my machine like this, right? It goes like this. You see here, users, Babu, Selenium, ChromeDriver. So it try to find this path automatically. So let me copy this path and make sure this path has the similar to WebDriver Manager, exactly like a WebDriver Manager. That's how we also saw the WebDriver Manager working, correct? So exactly like this, it goes and let me copy this and let me do this. So in this particular driver path, it should have the code base, right? So go to the driver and go and search for that particular folder, and which would have the driver for me, right? There is a driver which is sitting here, and this driver will be available. Like what we did in the last time, if I delete this, right? If I go and delete this, so this time the code is going to fail. So next time what will happen, it will go and this time it's going to fail, right? Because the Chrome driver doesn't exist, you got an exception, it should exist. That's okay. Next time it is going to automatically download it for me. That's what is going to happen. So let's go debug it again. So we got almost the essence of what we learned. It goes and puts the default service and goes and calls the port number, after which executable, it goes and finds the executable. The executable is not there, it goes to Selenium Manager, goes and downloads the new version right now. And if you see this particular path, it's going to go and set the new version. Let me copy it. It's the same version, not like last time, like WebDriver Manager doesn't go and sit in a right internal. So copy the same path, go and see it. It got downloaded. So if you see when it got downloaded, so let's go and see when it got downloaded, 742. It just got downloaded right now. And also you see the permission, they would have changed the permission of this also. If you look at the properties of this, it's directly it got permission already set on this one. So you will be able to see the properties having the permission to execute this particular one. It's also not only readable, writable, also executable. So it goes with that permission. So it will be able to execute it. So go and run this right now. So check the execution, right? So that should help you to launch the browser driver. That all the port number is going to be similar. It's no change to the port right in the version. I believe that covers the completely what you exactly intend to do it. Is that super clear for everybody? Was that quite useful? Quite useful? Okay, so brilliant. And if you have any questions, we will take questions with you, and so that I can help you with any of the technical questions. So I'll stop with the recording at the moment. Questions will be answered separately. Okay.